So welcome everyone. Hope you're all doing well. I hope uh, you're healthy. Number one, and that you haven't been affected by COVID. Some of you have, and some of us have. I'll say, but like I said, I hope you're doing well. Hope you also had a nice Thanksgiving, whatever that looked like for your families this year. Again, we're in kind of uncharted waters when it comes to uh, to 2020. Uh, Hopefully now with the vaccines coming out, well, we'll probably not see it until springtime, but still, um, at least some hope for what part of 2021 might look like. So we'll see. But again, welcome everyone here. Um, Before we get started, I wanted to mention one item again. I brought it up at last month at the at the alumni meeting. We are starting a letter writing campaign um, to basically tell our officials that we need to continue funding for these types of programs, Lean Six Sigma, project management, obviously others, and especially um, here funding for professionals. What we're finding is that a lot of offices are starting to turn people away when it comes to funding of these types of courses. So along with a couple of people that we've spoken to and some suggestions, we're going to be starting a letter writing campaign. I'm going to communicate with you later this month about this. If you can, we'd love to have or if you could draft a short letter talking about, your experience with getting funding or not, and how important it is that these funds are made accessible to individuals in terms of getting back to work, specifically to these types of courses. And like I said, if you're able to put it on some company letterhead, um, and then sign it and scan it and email it to me, to my attention, that would be great. Like I said, if you have any questions surrounding that, I'm more than happy to reach out and we can discuss that a little further. But we definitely want to get some more letters together. We've also reached out to some companies who've already sent a few letters in talking about these programs and how they affect them and how they're used within the organization, how important they are. So like I said, if we can ask you to do the same and help us out here, again, not just our programs, but these programs across the board, for some reason are being targeted, and we feel that there's definitely a place and a need for these methodologies, as well as these certifications. Uh, and companies have already spoken to that, but if we could further complement those discussions, as well as the letters that we've received, we'd greatly appreciate it. Any assistance we can get, we'd greatly appreciate. Um, I'm going to turn it over to Paul Gormas, our CEO, and he's going to take us through a presentation here. We talk about Six Sigma and Lean, but also how do we create a culture within the organization when it comes to Lean and Six Sigma. So Paul's had a lot of experience in this area, not only from being a vice president of continuous improvement, but also HR. So from that perspective, like I think he can give us some key insights, and feel free to also provide us your feedback as well, or your input as we go through the presentation. So Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you,
Okay.
and you can take it away.
All right. Thanks a lot. Welcome, everyone, to our discussion today on creating a Lean Six Sigma culture. It's one of my favorite topics. So when I talk about this today, it's, there's a lot of literature out there on this, books, whatever, articles, and I've read a lot of those. But what I'm going to be speaking about mostly is, what I've learned through my own experience, because for about 30 years of my career, this is what I did. I headed up the HR function, which was the people side of the business, but I also headed up the process improvement, continuous improvement function. And it sounds like a little bit of, for some people, like that's an oddball combination, that kind of career. And I guess it is. It's probably a little bit uncommon, but actually turned out great, because so much of having success with what we call Lean Six Sigma today, or what we in the past, more generic term is just continuous process improvement. So much of that success is dependent on really the culture of the organization and the people side of the process. So you've probably all seen this before in your prior training, where we say there are two major critical factors involved in a Lean Six Sigma implementation or process. And one of those we call the process or the tools. Those are all the statistics and all the 5 to make steps and all the various tools within Lean. So I call that, the mechanics of Lean Six Sigma. And some people catch on to those very easily. Others might take a little more work, but those are generally not the issue in an organization that is struggling, in some way with Lean Six Sigma. The other half of the equation, which is what we're going to focus on today, is really the people side, or the culture that supports Lean Six Sigma initiative. And when there are issues or problems in organizations with success with Lean Six Sigma initiatives, it usually can be found, related to some aspect of leadership, something related to change management, or something related to teamwork, or the people side of this process. So that's where we're focused. And typically we focus in our training on the other part, but today we're focusing on the Lean Six Sigma culture.
Hey, Paul, before you continue, I wanted to just chime in.
Sure.
Just so everyone knows, we're recording the session today. So just wanted to let you know that if you have issue with, obviously the screens are on there, or your screens are on here too. If you have issue with that, if you want to turn off your video, but like I said, is that if everyone's okay with that, we want to start sharing some of these discussions outside of the session. So just wanted to let you know that. I hope you're okay with that. But like I said, if you don't want your image on here, if you want to turn off your video, that's fine too. I just wanted to let you know that. Okay.
Okay. Full disclosure there. Thanks, Tasso. Anybody have something to say? So I also want to reiterate that anywhere through this where you have a comment or a question, I'd like you to join in. This is a very informal, kind of presentation here. And we want it to be a learning exercise. Okay, so this may be something you remember seeing before also. We've got a few slides that we've shown in other presentations and a few new slides thrown in here today. But there are two distinct cultural paradigms that exist out in organizations. Now, probably most organizations are not really on one end or the other, but they might have a combination of both sides of this paradigm, and maybe are somewhere in between. But let's talk about the two ends of this paradigm. So first of all, and when we look at this, these are kind of almost like a point and counterpoint discussion. So in the traditional organization, compliance to the rules is typically very important. And in a Lean Six Sigma organization, we're really looking for a culture where people don't feel like they have to be managed, micromanaged in order to comply with the rules of the organization, but where they really are highly committed to the organization. And one time when I was going over this particular subject in an organization, one of the managers says to me, "But Paul, I need to guarantee that my people perform at a minimum level." And I said back to the person, I said, "What did you say?" "I need to guarantee that my people perform at a minimum level." I said, "Did you hear what you just said?" I said, "We don't need our people. We don't want our people performing at a minimum level. We really want them performing at a maximum level. And you can't force them to do that. That happens through the commitment of those people to that organization." So in a Lean Six Sigma organization, we don't have to micromanage people to get them to perform at the minimum level of whatever it happens to be, but they gladly perform at a high level because they're committed to the organization. In a traditional paradigm, supervision is necessary. In a Lean Six Sigma paradigm, we put the emphasis more on education. I've been involved in some situations where we actually had people so committed to the process and knowledgeable, and that we actually eliminated the supervisors. And most people really feel like, just let me do my job, but they need to know what we're trying to accomplish, and of course they need to know how to do the job, and the more that we really create this Lean Six Sigma type of culture, the less, here again, micromanaging kind of supervision is necessary. But a lot of education is necessary to make that possible. Traditional paradigm focus on hierarchy. The Lean Six Sigma paradigm is focused on the customer. So one of the questions that I ask when I start working with a new company as a consultant, and I like to ask this to the employees on the floor in the office, so to speak, is who are you trying to please here when you do your job? And if most of them say the boss, of course, isn't everybody trying to please the boss? That tells me that that's a hierarchical focused organization. People are primarily focused on the bosses, and we need to do what they want us to do to please them. But if the rank and file person on the floor in the office says, "I'm trying to please the customer, of course," that tells me that that organization, the leadership, has led in such a way that people know the main thing we're trying to do here is please our customers. So that's a characteristic that you see in a Lean Six Sigma culture. The traditional organization, there's a bias for the various functions and you see silos in these organizations and lots of classifications of jobs. Whereas in the Lean Six Sigma paradigm, it's more of you see a more cross-functional structure going on. In one example where I worked, we had a plant of 25 classifications. When we built a new plant in another location, we decided that we wanted to consolidate those 25. We consolidated them down to 3. And then we cross-trained the people to do all the operators, where there was previously about 18 classifications. Now there's one operator classification. They're trained to do all 18 jobs. So they don't worry about whether that's my job or not. Matter of fact, we tell them in those organizations, we've outlawed the phrase, "That's not my job." If you use that phrase around here, or if that is your attitude about working here, well, guess what? This won't be your job either. And we do that in a very positive way. But the Lean Six Sigma organization, there's a lot of cross-training, few classifications, and people can be flexible and do whatever job is needed at the time. Traditional manages by policy. Lean Six Sigma manages by principle. So I've been places, I was in HR, directly for 25 years. And, the traditional manager, a little thing goes wrong, and it happens, one person abuses something, and then they say, okay, hey, Paul, can you write a policy on that? We need a policy to cover that. I got this employee abuses this all the time. So you write this policy that really limits every employee when there's only one employee. I said, if this one employee is abusing it, deal with them, but we don't need to restrict everybody in the company when there's one person abusing something. So you see, binders and binders of policies, whereas in a traditional or in a Lean Six Sigma paradigm, you have a very thin book that describes the principles by which we work. And there again, it allows us to be flexible and be able to deal with any situation that may come up. As a matter of fact, too many policies act as constraints and bottlenecks in organizations and restrict our flexibility.
Paul, this is Mike. Don't
Yeah.
you find when there's policies, we operate, our job is about the policy. It's not about whatever function we're serving or who we're trying to serve. It's about the policy, making sure we stay within them.
Yeah, we just need policies that make sense, that aren't restricting us from being flexible and even serving the customer. A union contract that's a policy book. Most of my career I've worked with unions, and one of the things I'm in charge of labor relations. But even with the union, we've been able to open up the restrictive policies, and even with a union environment, we've been able to take those 25 classifications down to 3. And really the ultimate goal, we do have to operate within the policies of the organization. We just need those policies to give us the flexibility to operate in the most efficient manner and be able to satisfy the customer. I've seen policies that if you followed them strictly, they actually hurt the customer. We weren't able to serve the customer because of those policies. So on the traditional side, favors audit and enforcement. On the Lean Six Sigma paradigm, favors learning processes. Traditional selective information sharing, Lean Six Sigma open information sharing. So on the selective side, you know, a lot of times you hear the phrase, you know, only share this on a need to know basis. But a lot of those pieces of information that we're holding back are really things that maybe other people in the company do need to know. And they may have solutions to those if we open up, you know, more in our communications. Bosses make the decisions, workers involved in many decisions. So we empower our workers to go ahead and make decisions. They don't make them lightly. They've been trained and they've been given the authority and responsibility for those decisions. But when we turn a lot of those decisions over to the workers, a couple of things happen. First of all, they were able to respond more quickly to whatever issues going on or to the customers. And secondly, a lot of times they even make better decisions because they're closer to the issue. Emphasis on means, emphasis on results. Well, we've always done it that way. Well, maybe there's a better way that'll give us some better results. Rewards hard work, encourages smart work. So in the Lean Six Sigma paradigm, people actually seem to work harder, but we want them working smarter as well. And sometimes you can work much smarter and be more productive and not even work as hard. Rewards conservative improvement, rewards continuous improvement. So that's where, I don't know, it's always worked this way, even though could be better. I don't want to rock the boat or take a risk. That's kind of the attitude on the traditional side. On the Lean Six Sigma paradigm, rewards continuous improvement. Well, let's try that and see what happens. And fortunately, Lean Six Sigma gives you methodologies for making continuous improvement that significantly reduce the risk of those improvements. Encourages agreement, encourages input, suggestions, and ideas. So I'm the boss, just do what I say and everything will be good. Versus, hey, if you got ideas that are better, that will improve some part of the process, I want to hear about them, you know. And of course, when they come up with those ideas, we need to give them credit for them and recognition for their input. Okay, so what are the steps to creating a Lean Six Sigma culture? First of all, we need to understand it. We need to learn what that really means. What is a Lean Six Sigma culture, you know, and why should we be doing it? So when you talk culture to a lot of people, they say, that's such a vague, what do you mean culture? You know, really vague concept. Well, we need to take the vagueness out of it and we need to define, like we just did. We went through some definition on the right side. These are characteristics of the Lean Six Sigma culture. The left side are really characteristics of a traditional culture. But even though we can understand, maybe even believe those are the characteristics, we still need to know how to do it. So we need to learn what it is, you know, and why we should do it and how to do it. So that's a lot of what we're going to be covering here today. So define what it means for us. Define what it means for our organization. Every organization is different, and we really need to be very very clear as to what it means in our organization, and then we need to communicate that to leadership to begin with. All the leadership has to be on board. If all the leadership is not on board with this culture we're trying to create, it's not going to happen. And then we need to communicate it to the rest of the organization. Then we need to be committed to it. So this isn't just something we talk about, give lip service to, or treat academically. This is something we're actually committed to doing, and not as the flavor of the month. Need to communicate about it, and do it often. Communication is a huge step and element in this process. Train on it. So for people to understand what this is about, needs to be included in our training. And in places where I've been in the past, going back to Kroger Company back in the 70s, I practiced this type of course, it wasn't called Lean Six Sigma back then, but I practiced this type of culture as a production supervisor in 13 different production departments, and my productivity, quality, and even morale improved significantly. It was a union environment. I wasn't getting grievances. Quality was great. Productivity shot up. And I got brought into the office one day, and they said, "What are you doing out there?" You know, and I said, "Well, I'll tell you, but I got to whisper it to you because we don't want our competition to hear about it. I talk to the people, you know." And you what? I talk to them, the people. What do you talk to them about? Well, I talk to them about how they're doing, but I also talk to them about, you know, their jobs, and when there's an issue at their workstation, you know, do you have any ideas on how to improve it? And I'm getting a lot of those ideas, and they're good, and we're implementing them, and maybe someday this process will be called continuous improvement. I don't know. No, I didn't say that, but we were getting significant continuous improvement, and a huge part of it related to communication. So when they brought me in, they say, "Well, we'd like you to offer you a position in our HR function." That was beginning my HR career. "And we'd like you to incorporate what you're doing into our leadership training and take it out to our other 25 plants." And so that's what I did for the next 2 years. And everywhere we implemented these concepts, we had significant performance improvement. So you got to train on it, and then live by it. You know, do it, set the example. You know, leadership especially has to set the example. Execute it. There's ways to do it right. That these ways are known. We're talking about them, and then just do it. Never stop doing it. So that's probably maybe the most important part of this is if you start doing this and you start communicating effectively, involving your people, and you're getting improvements, and then for some reason you go back to your old traditional ways of doing things, or that leader leaves and a more traditional leader comes in, that really tanks the people. You know, if they have expectations, things are getting better, we're starting to enjoy our work, and you go back to the old paradigm. So what is exactly involved in a Lean Six Sigma culture? First of all, we need a vision of where this is taking us. You know, why are we doing this, and where do we expect this to take us in the future? So, and that needs to be a shared vision, one that's put out there, because it's also an exciting vision. Because when you utilize Lean Six Sigma. It's going to do great things for your organization. It's going to do great things for your people. And so it's a real positive kind of vision. And if top leadership puts that out there, the employees love that. You know, wow, this is different, but this is great. I hope this isn't just a one-time, speech or pitch they're making. I hope they're sincere. And make sure you understand your mission within the context of continuous improvement. What are we here for? And what are we trying to accomplish as an organization? What's our purpose for existence? What are communicate your values. The values within a Lean Six Sigma organization might look a little different than those in a traditional organization. How we treat each other, how we treat our customers and work with them, our suppliers. But make sure those values are known and that you expect the organization to live by those values. Create a strategy to make this happen that comes from the top. We're going to drill down more into what are some components of that type of strategy here in a few minutes. Instill a sense of urgency. In one organization where I was at, the sense of urgency was kind of brought to us by the sales department. They came to us and said, we need to quadruple our throughput over the next 6 months. And we already took the orders. So it's failure is not an option. And guess what? When we communicated that to the people and we involved them and come up with ideas on how to do it, we accomplished it. We went from 3,000 units per month to 12,000. We quadrupled our throughput. We doubled our productivity over the next 6 months. And the sense of urgency really helped drive that. This was back in the early 80s where I kind of learned that, wow, this sense of urgency can be a strong performance driver. And there really always is a sense of urgency. Almost everybody's got a competitor, but we need to get that across to our people in the organization. Of course, a high level of communication. You have to utilize integrity, operate with integrity, do what you say you're going to do, operate be honest to your people. The Lean Six Sigma or team-based methodologies. Teams are utilized in an operational context, but they're also utilized in a problem-solving context. In this, in relation to Six Sigma teams and Kaizen, processes. There really needs to be in this type of culture a lot of mutual trust and respect, and we need to be open with each other, respect each other. And that way we can collaborate better, we can cooperate, and even communicate better. Goals and use of measurement. We need to determine what are our goals. What are we trying to improve here? What are the timeframes behind those goals? How are we going to measure our performance? So this is where a lot of the SPC comes into play. Strategic compensation. Now, that's one where a lot of people may feel like, I don't know what, I had no idea what he's talking about there. But traditional compensation is really, the philosophy behind it is it treats compensation as an expense. And the goal is, how do we minimize that expense, okay? Whereas strategic compensation treats compensation as a tool to drive the organization's performance to the achievement of the goals of the organization. And so it may not actually lead to the least cost, but the return on investment is huge. In one place where we implemented a gain sharing plan, which I would put under that category of strategic compensation, team-based gain sharing incentive plan, we had a 5-year goal to cut our cost in half in that plant. And when we implemented this program, we did it in 6 months. The strategic compensation process was way more powerful than we realized, and we were that particular plant became a cash cow. You know, we were printing money there, but the employees were enjoying really the highest compensation in town, so to speak, for the kind of work they were doing. So it was a real win-win scenario. Recognition and celebration, you know, whenever throughout my career, when I was a first line supervisor and an employee came up with a good idea and we implemented it and it made the process better, I made a big deal out of it with them. I recognized them for it. Hey, this was Shirley's idea that eliminated that jam we have every time we run that product. And Shirley gets a little embarrassed, but she's really happy about it, that, you know, she got recognition for it. And when we hit the big goals, we celebrate. We have, it's a company where, you know, we quadrupled or had to quadruple our throughput. When we hit the end of every month and we hit the goal, we had a big party and made a big deal out of it with everybody. And then throughout next month's goal, which was crazy, a crazy goal, but guess what? They hit it too. And most of the ideas for improvement came from the employees. So these are very powerful tools. Associate involvement, of course, involving the people in solving the problems as part of teams, continuous improvement, you know, that's the overriding concept here. Focus on the customer and a problem-solving focus are all part of what characteristics of a Lean Six Sigma culture. Okay, so we say define it. Okay, here's a way of defining it. This is actually our values and culture at Breakthrough Performance Group. So first of all, we say we care about people and our clients and our associates. We have a heart and passion for our work. We don't view our work here as a job. We think it's our calling, you know. And you know, we believe in integrity. We live and work by embracing truth and honesty, just the facts, you know, and we deliver what we promise, or do our best, do our very best to deliver what we promise. Professionalism, conduct our business ourselves professionally. We're dependable, reliable, and consistent in what we do. Here again, we do our best. And we're human, and we don't do everything perfect, but we also believe in continuous improvement. So we're striving to really do the best we can in each of these categories. Quality, set and achieve high standards of excellence for ourselves, strive to attract, select, and retain the best associates, best team members, people who are affiliated with us. Vision, we create a vision that excites and motivates. We have a vision of growing this business tremendously over the years. We're always looking at bringing in new products. You know, we're hoping to roll out a master black belt in the first quarter, and we're looking at maybe Scrum and Agile type classes and things that relate to, you know, our core competencies. But we've got an exciting vision out there for the future. Teamwork, celebrate the diversity of the team, and leverage the synergy of the team. Leverage the fact that when you have a team working together, 2 + 2 = 5. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. We believe in empowering our people. We provide direction, expectations, training, and resources necessary to empower the individual and the team. And we require accountability and grant people latitude to be flexible and responsive. Innovation, always want to seek to better understand the needs of our clients and and we want to find better ways to fulfill those needs. So we're always open to better use of technology, better use of processes, training materials, training approaches. We got forced into the virtual approach to doing things, but it actually is opening up a lot of new doors for us and a lot of possibilities. In our training now, we're having people attend training from, many states away, from Kansas or from Florida, or we got several from Michigan in our black belt next week without having to travel, and we wouldn't be able to do that training without, innovating along with what's going on in the world around us. Continuous improvement, of course, we continuously develop associates, involve them, creating best practice, improve our processes, quality service, and customer satisfaction. And we believe in maintaining a good work-life balance, recognizing the need for meaning, satisfaction, fulfillment, and fun at work, strive for balance between work and family, spiritual, social, and physical aspects of life. We believe that our workplace has to be balanced with all those things. Makes us better people, makes us better, servants to our customers. Okay, so kind of keep an eye on the clock here. I'm going to run through. We could really have a day-long session on this, or even a week-long for that matter. But so I'm going to kind of move through the rest of the slides pretty quickly because I just see I'm probably going to run out of time. But we talked about strategies before, so I kind of broken down the strategies into 5 categories, and this is part of what we call our peak performance model. So we've got the visionary leadership, compelling performance drivers, pervasive communication, continuous improvement, and sustained execution. And then under each of those, I'm not going to go through each one of these bullet points, but you can look at these and see what's involved under each of these. A lot of these I've already talked about. We can drill down into them a lot more, but you see under visionary leadership, there's the vision out there, there's a strategy, but there's also empowerment, servant leadership, very powerful concept, one I've utilized in the past that works very well, and managing change effectively, because continuous improvement means continuous change. So we could drill into this. These are the components of empowerment. Empowerment doesn't mean turning the prison over to the inmates. It really means equipping your people to do the job and then giving them the responsibility and the accountability, trusting and the trust and the freedom to do the job. And when it's done right, it works. It works incredibly well. So another thing we talked about was managing change. Continuous improvement means continuous change. So these are components that are involved in managing change. If people are excited about the vision, they'll want to change to that vision. So we tell them where we want to go, why we want to go there, how we're going to get there. We want to have a sense of urgency behind it. Here's our goals. Utilize effective communication. To get somewhere, you got to continuously improve, involve the people in that. They get the buy-in. They become the change agents and drivers. What are the benefits of getting there, and then celebrate these successes. So continuing on through the model, the compelling performance drivers, the things that help drive and excite people to achieve the goals. Pervasive communication. Communication is key to all of this. Needs to come from leadership around the performance drivers. Meet with the teams regularly, frequently. update everyone on the business. They feel like they're one of the owners. They have a lot of buy-in. Communicate effectively one-on-one with your people. Listen, of course, that's half of communication, if not more, is good listening. Because your people will tell you good stuff if you listen to them. Multi-directional always, and utilize the visual workplace, which we've all learned about in our training. Of course, the whole concept of continuous improvement. It's one of these strategies. Utilize that, or assess the organization, involve the people, engage them, train them, coach and mentor them. We've developed a tool called employee utilization quotient that measures the percent of employee utilization. That's part of this. And of course, continuously utilizing the problem-solving processes, identifying the root causes, developing solutions that make improvements. And we want to sustain our execution, always to focus on the customer, doing it right the first time, working as a team, leveraging our people, utilizing the pull system, which is more directly serving the customer, being flexible, reliable, and putting in control plans that make sure we're consistent and we sustain our performance in the future. Okay, so in kind of summarizing what we've talked about, to create a Lean Six Sigma culture, first of all, leaders, really initiate this process. And if the leadership isn't there, this culture is not going to be created and it's not going to be sustained. But the leaders initiate and champion it. They understand it. They believe in it. They practice it. They create a strategy to get there and a vision, and they create a plan, and then they empower their people. They motivate the organization through goals, measuring, monitoring progress to achieve those goals, lay on the recognition, reward, and celebration. Communicate prolifically, pervasively, persuasively. Prolifically means a lot, pervasively means everywhere, and persuasively means communicating passionately about our organization and about this process, about the business, and our shared vision and our shared goals. Educate your people, start with leadership, then everybody else in this process. Utilize the tools, work as teams, and manage change. And then, of course, involve everyone in training, on project teams, give everybody a chance to rotate in and out of the project teams, in setting goals, solving problems, and implementing their solutions. So we want to seek the Grand Slam win. What is a Grand Slam win? That's when every part of the organization is a winner. The customers need to win, of course. The organization has to be a winner. The employees need to be winners too. And the suppliers need to feel like they're a partner and a winner in all of this. And when you create a strategy that makes winners out of everybody that's part of this team, then your organization can create a competitive advantage that your customers will not be able to, they'll be clueless about. How are they kicking our butt, so much? And we just can't keep up with their quality and their customer satisfaction and their productivity so we need to seek that Grand Slam win, and really everything we just talked about enables us to do that. I thought I had a metric there. I mean, not a metric, but a visual graphic. Okay, oops, I didn't mean to do that. So.
Any questions?
Any questions, anyone, or comments?
Is Ricardo still on? Yeah, there. Ricardo had a question, Paul, earlier. Kind of like, I think the company's pretty traditional. What are some of the first steps to make in order to transition into a Lean Six Sigma culture?
Okay, if the top of the organization wants to do it, of course, it'll be much easier than if you're, say, one of the managers or even one of the executives, but you're kind of by yourself in understanding and wanting to go in this direction. But if the top of the organization is wants to go in this direction, then they really need to bring in people, consultants. We've been brought in to those kind of situations where an organization got a new executive, the new CEO understood Lean and Six Sigma and wanted to, and the organization was about to go down the tubes. This was their last resort. And he understood they needed a culture change and they needed to implement Lean Six Sigma. So we had the opportunity to go in there, and we started by training all the leadership in what it's about. And vast majority of them embraced that. Some didn't, and they were no longer there. They were replaced by people who did embrace these processes. So really starts with the leadership, and then there's a lot of training. We have like a 10-step process to get there, but goes back to everything we talked about here. All the different components of a strategy, a vision, a strategy, communication, training, and leadership understanding how to lead in, utilizing this paradigm. It can all be learned, and it just needs some part of leadership driving it and making it happen. So it's all very doable. There's every organization is starting from a different step. Now, when I did this at Kroger Manufacturing, when I was a first line production supervisor on the second shift, in general they were following that traditional paradigm. But fortunately, my general foreman allowed me to use my own management style, and I used the management style as described here, and performance improved. It showed up in the numbers, and then they wanted to know what I was doing. And I said I was doing these things, and they said, "Wow, we want to take that influence and make it broader." They brought me in to their HR training function and said, "Take this out to our other 25 plants," which we did, and vast majority of those embraced it and significantly improved performance. So it can start with one person, just doing it within their span of control, span of responsibility, and hopefully the leadership recognizes that. And so one person can influence the organization, but if it starts from the top, then it's just a matter of doing the things we said here with leadership support to get there. Is that helpful? I'd be happy to talk one-on-one, anytime, period, later. If anybody has any other questions on that. Any other questions or comments?
Paul, you mentioned you had you took a plant and it became a cash cow.
Yeah.
Were you able to get the same results from other plants?
Yeah. After that, we did it in 2 other plants in the same company. That one, the one we started with, where we applied these kind of processes and cultural type approaches, was a green a greenfield plant in Tennessee. So that made it easier. You know, we hired the right people and put everything in this way from scratch. But then we did it in Middletown, Ohio, and in a union environment where the people came from the outside into another new plant. And it worked the same way there. But then we did it, a third one, where we took existing employees into the facility and had the same results. So regardless of whether, and I've done this in other companies, you know, I've done it in 6 different companies over my career where I was an employee, and I've helped achieve these kind of things in a lot of different companies where I was a consultant as well. So I haven't seen an organization yet where the leadership was committed to doing this, where we haven't been able to create the change, the positive change.
And I think Paul hit the nail on the head. I think for those meaningful changes to take place, and when you talk about changing culture within the organization, you really need to have buy-in from your leadership. But otherwise, you might make some improvements or some change within the organization, but they're not going to be as drastic, let alone as all-encompassing as when you have leadership buy-in to be able to, when you actually talk about true change within the organization or transforming the organization, you're going to need the buy-in from leadership to make that happen.
You know, the more buy-in you have from leadership, the more committed they are, the easier it is to do this. You know,
they're supporting these initiatives.
Right.
At the end of the day.
Right.
So. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Feel free to contact me at any time if you want to talk more about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.